Okay, well, welcome everybody to our next session. So we have here with us Christy Casey Sanders from Happily. She's going to chat with us about, this is basically an AMA about their Happily Shadow program. The session is being recorded, so if you have a concern with that, please either turn off your camera or leave the session. Christy said that she's happy to take questions throughout the presentation, so just kind of pop in, but otherwise please keep yourself muted, and you can feel free to add questions to the chat. I'll check that out too. And Christy, take it away.
Great, thank you. Hey everybody, I am Christy Casey Sanders. I am Happily Head of Operations and Customer Success, and I wanted to give you a brief overview of the Shadow program, which we actually launched last week and had our first cohort go through an event yesterday. So this is super brand new. This is something that we developed because the effect of COVID on the live events industry has been so incredibly disruptive. We've been able to kind of move from matching talent for live events to kind of being a full production virtual events agency. But as we shifted our business model, we started to look at our freelancers and kind of the wealth of talent that's been displaced right now, and started to think about, well, what can we be doing to help reskill people so that they can be redeployed as virtual event team talent. And in addition to that, some of the people that we're already deploying might want to level up their own skills and kind of get to the next level. So how do we enable that and make that happen? And the answer is the Shadow program. So happily.io/shadow-program is where our kind of landing page is with the frequently asked questions. And I'll take you through some of that as well. But this is primarily, it helps in a couple different ways. So I wanted to give you an overview of who Happily is, just in case you're not already part of our network. So our mission is to be the most inclusive, diverse, and happy network of event specialists. And our vision is to connect with your purpose and your people. Our legacy is to reduce, represent, reinvest, and respect. So when we place teams, we do that with an eye of being femme forward. We do that with an eye towards diversity and developing pools of talent that may not have felt like they had a place or a space in the events world. Our goals for this program are to reskill industry professionals so that they have virtual event team skills, to increase our pool of talent, right? So we have more, as we have more demand for events, that we have more talent at the ready that we can deploy against that. And then raise the quality of the performance of all of our specialists across the board. So what are we looking for with the Happily Shadow program? We are looking for people with a full Happily profile. That way we can make sure that we're tracking you, because if the goal is to take you through these different skills and then get you to a place where you can get hired, if you don't have a Happily profile, we can't do that. So I would suggest, if you don't already, go to happily.io, create a profile if you don't already have one. If you already have one, then you may want to edit it just to highlight things like Zoom, right? Skills that you've picked up during the pandemic. And then fill out the application, and that'll save you one step. So we're looking for people who are serious about being a working event professional. A lot of people are like, oh, this is they don't know what goes into it. So there are a lot of dilettantes that'll come through. If you are a dilettante, that's awesome. You are probably not going to be one of our busiest shadows. We're looking for people who understand the importance of not getting in the way. As a shadow, it is not your role to interrupt an all hands meeting or to distract somebody who's trying to operate tech to know what they're doing in the minute. As a shadow, we really do want you to kind of hang back and just observe. At the end of the event, you'll have a chance to talk to the person that you were shadowing and get all of your questions answered, but we don't want people who are going to draw attention to themselves in meetings or interrupt other people's work by like trying to feed their heads in that moment. We've made space for that in the program. So people who understand the importance of not getting in the way, people who respect the process, the clients, the staff involved, right? So one of the reasons why we have a really happy workforce is because people know how to be cool to each other and take care of each other and support each other. And so we're looking for people who kind of have that same ethos. And then we're also specifically trying to develop additional creative and technical team talent. We have 3 tracks: production, tech, and creative. Just about everybody who has worked on a live event already falls into that production track. So this is also an area where you may want to develop some additional skills, because they're just like if you were in acting and you were a white woman, the number of roles that you have are small, but the number of talent you're competing against is wide. I feel like in the events world, you're going to be competing a lot more people on that production track than you would be on a technical or a creative track. So it also gives you an opportunity to augment the skills that you already have and give you some additional opportunities. So kind of a snapshot of kind of the events that we do, because in addition to these 3 tracks, we also have kind of small team, mid-sized team, and large team meetings that we produce for our clients. So some examples are like a webinar, right? Something like this is analogous to a happily hour, or a holiday party, or something where it's kind of small. You can get by with just a host. You can get by with somebody who's a tech, right? And so they're interactive. They are predominantly on Zoom. The budget for the clients are smaller. There may only be about 2 weeks before it gets thrown together. So that's what a small team meeting is. The talent level that gets placed on those shows is probably on more of a junior level. Mid-sized team meetings are more things like summits. So maybe it's one Zoom room and it's multiple things happening that day. Maybe there's some pre-roll video, maybe there's some motion graphics, but it's not, it's more complex than just a webinar and a one-room Zoom thing. There may be video overlays. It may have a custom website that people can view it through, but it's primarily kind of one stream. So, so those require, you know, video techs and a streaming engineer, and some of these more mid-level or starting to get into senior level talent. The lead time also tends to be a little bit longer and the budgets are larger. And then we also do these large team meetings. And so these are complex events which require junior, mid-level, senior level talent in all the 3 different tracks. And it could be something, you know, for example, yesterday we did a launch for a Fortune 500 company that was having its opening offering in NASDAQ. And so they made the big announcement, and then people were able to go into like 20 different simultaneous experiences. And so that required a team of about 42 people. With the shadows, it brought it up to about, you know, 50 or 60 people who were all kind of involved in making this 1-hour experience happen for thousands of people. So that's kind of the range of what we do. So the different tracks we have, these 3 tracks, production, tech, creative, we've developed kind of 5 levels for each track, and each level relates to a different role that you'd be shadowing, and going from level 1 up to level 5. So level 1 is kind of the ground floor. So for example, on the production track, a level 1 role that you might shadow would be the happily hour host. So it's somebody who, like me, is, you know, we're curating, we're guiding the session, we're curating the questions, or like my hot hostess, right? Like what they're doing behind the scenes to make sure that the Zoom happens, that the things are recorded, that people are muted. So that's a level 1 production role. Then there's the production assistant. So they're hosting the Zoom, they're building the Zoom settings, they're managing the breakout experience. You know, so for example, if there's motion graphics that are supposed to play and then you fade into a speaker slide and then you fade into the speaker, like that might be the production assistant versus, you know, the happily hour host level. So level 3, we get into kind of a mid-level role. They tend to be, if you're someone who's worked a lot with speaker management, the backstage manager is a position that would be kind of that virtual equivalent. So they orchestrate the movements of speaker and staff backstage. So a lot of times we'll have a Zoom green room, and then we move them into the live broadcast environment. And so working with the talent, making sure they're lit correctly, that kind of thing. Level 4, you get to a breakout producer. So they're creating the run of show. So if you are a breakout producer, you know, for this holiday show example, the breakout producer would be like, okay, from this time to this time, this is what the motion graphic is, and this is the overlay, and this is what's going to happen here, and then we're going to do this. And so creating the run of show, but just for that breakout track. The main stage producer is a level 5. That's a senior level position. And so they take that that breakout skill, and now you're coordinating the entire event. So multiple breakouts, multiple streams, multiple teams rolling up to that. So on the production, that's kind of where you're moving up through the levels on that track. For tech, you start off at tech support, which is, you know, basically moderating the chat, providing the tech support when needed, helping people figure out how to see their screen or get logged on. The clock works with backstage managers to make sure that the run of show stays on track. They also handle speaker queues. So, you know, you're up in 5, that kind of thing. So that's the level 2 role on the check. The streaming engineer is a level 3 and a level 4 role. Level 3 for mid-size events, level 4 for large team events. And they're the person who takes the video feeds, makes sure that things can sync up with, hey, we're streaming it on Vimeo or YouTube Live. We're gonna be, you know, taking this B-roll and kind of moving it into here. So in between this point on the run of show and this point on the run of show, this is what's going to happen. They're the ones who are manipulating that technology behind the scenes. And then the technical director, they're directing all the technical functions. They're making sure that all the streaming keys are set correctly, that anything that could go wrong has already been checked, and there's a plan B for it. They're leading the tech team, and they're reporting up to the producer about it. So that's the 5 levels of tech. The 5 levels of creative. At the bottom floor, you've got the graphic designer, right? So, oh, we need speaker intro slides. How does that look like with our clients, you know, brand standards? So they develop the graphic assets. Then level 2 is a graphics assembly. So this person takes those graphic assets and then they overlay them on videos or live streams, or they create it in an environment where it can be used, or they take things that have already been created to be adding to that video output or that live stream output. Motion graphics. So the graphic designer and the graphics assembly, those are more kind of 2D, but if there are things that are moving, right? I'm gonna have my lower third flying over here, and then my name's gonna appear, and then a twinkle is gonna happen in my eye. They're the ones who kind of create those animations that overlay that you can put then over the content. So that's the level 3. The assembly editor will take the motion graphics, they will take the pre-recorded video, they will take the live stream, and they will start to create kind of like, now this is the run of show, okay, this is the asset, this is the build, this is when it's going to go live, so that they're kind of taking all these other things and putting it together to make it happen in that live environment. So the streaming engineer is somebody that they work very closely with. And then the level 5 of the creative is a web developer. So, hey, we're doing this event. We want people to be able to go to this website, watch it through this viewing portal after the event. Then we want you to be able to, you know, or we need these features on the website. So they basically work with the client, they work with the production team to develop custom websites and viewing portals that can be used during the event for the experience, and then after the event for the archive. So I'm going to pause there because I feel like that's a lot. So are there questions about kind of the roles that you would be shadowing so far? No? Okay, good.
Well, I kind of have a question.
Yeah.
So I actually have a Happily profile.
Yes.
And I've gotten texted for different jobs, and now I know what they are. That was really good. Thank you.
Awesome.
No, and I find it interesting how you guys broke it apart, because you read my tarot card. I've been doing virtual events for a while, but I kind of feel like I do a lot of that and don't divide it out like that. So it's kind of cool to see. So for someone like me, who I have experience, but I really want to keep learning.
Mm-hmm.
You welcome us to apply for the shadow. Is that what it is? You apply for the shadow
Yeah,
program?
yeah. So where did I leave my chat? I may not have even opened it. What I'll do is I'll put the website for
I was
the,
going to say, I didn't get the website right because I got to a 404, but
okay.
yeah.
Pretty,
No, because I think what you said in the beginning was excellent, that you might, like everybody thinks, and, we're producers, but to
mm-hmm.
learn, I want to learn the creative. I want to learn, the tech. I really want to understand it so
Yeah,
that as a producer, I can participate correctly in giving directions too.
great. So are you seeing the shadow program website
Yes,
now? Okay.
you did a great job sharing.
Yeah. So there's like a big apply to be a shadow button,
Okay.
and kind of like, what is it and what they do on the show, and that kind of thing. Um, so I just wanted to make sure that I was dropping the right one.
So, but it's a learning, it's complete learning.
Yeah, it's complete learning. So basically, like, as a shadow, you are not getting paid to be on the show, because your responsibility is to sit back and watch and see how it gets done. And so the way that we've set it up is that, if you're coming in at the ground floor, right? If, hey, I want to go all the way from level 1 to level 5 on the creative track. I've created this kind of grid to explain how many times we think you should shadow something before you can take an exam. So what we're working towards is, hey, I've applied. I've said that I'm interested in the creative. Great. Now what's going to happen on the back end is, when we go to staff a show and we say, hey, graphic designer, are you interested in working on the show? This is the rate, this is the agreement. And they say yes. Then saying, would you be interested in being a mentor and allowing someone to shadow you as you work? And then being available after the project is over to answer any questions they have. And if they say yes, then we can go to our application list and say, okay, so we've got on this show, we've got a graphic designer, we've got a streaming engineer, we've got a backstage manager, and we've got a producer who are all willing to mentor. So who do we have that might be good to place? And so say that you shadow the graphic designer once, you shadow the graphic designer twice. At that point, I would recommend that you take the quiz to be able to kind of put a stamp on it that says, hey, I know what I'm doing as a graphic designer. And then for something like that, there might be an additional need for like a portfolio before we hire you. But that's how we're kind of thinking of it. We're thinking of it as, when you come on as a shadow, you get a description of what that job is and what the components are, so that you're informed. You get introduced to the mentor at the beginning of the process. So you get to, so for example, if you're the backstage manager, you'll probably be attending a lot more meetings or things like that, or have the chance to sit behind things like the dress rehearsals that people on the creative track may or may not be doing, right? Because that may not, a lot of their stuff may be more studio focused. So depending on the role that you're shadowing, you have this experience kind of walking through the event with them. If you do that, 2 times with some of the more junior roles, there will be a quiz that you can then take, which then on your Happily profile, it'll say that you passed this exam, right? So when those jobs become available, now you're in the pool of people who may get an option of being able to say, hey, I can do this job.
Do you have to have shadowed to take the exams? Like I did the Zoom exam and passed, but I didn't know there were other exams.
Yeah, so I think so that's why we launched it, and then it'll become like a set process in January, because I wanted to get one kind of under the belt to identify everything that was needed. So by January, I should have exams up for the other levels. So the way I would look at it is, if you're able to pass the exam, then that's probably not a level that you need to shadow.
Right.
And so, there are backstage managers though who may be interested in producing. And so as backstage managers, they've been in all those meetings, but they still may not understand the components that you have to be, the producer and the show caller and all of that. So they might be interested in shadowing that producer role, so that in addition to backstage management work, they also could apply to be a breakout manager or to be a main stage producer. So that's how
So,
we're
but so
looking
you're
at
going
it.
to have the level 1 exams available for everybody after January. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
In all the, like, because that was part of my question. Like, how do you know that we are good at something as
Right.
a,
So
how
yeah.
do you
So
vet everybody?
yeah. So that's why there's a little bit of vetting that happens after the application, right? We can't place you until you have your Happily profile in place. So that'll be one level of it. If you're already in the system and you already have a Happily profile, there's going to be notes that we have on past jobs you've done. So if you are somebody who hijacked a show or did not perform well, then you may not be embraced in the shadow program just because of a mismatch that's already been identified. As we're going through the shadow program, the mentors are going to give us feedback. You're going to be giving us feedback too. So there's a continual feedback loop in which we're able to kind of evaluate your process and kind of, understand where you are and how you work and what your values are. And then things like the quizzes that can kind of qualify what our instincts are. And then in addition to that, I'm building a community on Discord so that because there's a lot of questions you have, right? And once you've applied, oh, what happens? Once I've done the shadow, oh, then what happens? And so creating a Discord community, because all of our event communications are on Discord, and so everyone needs to know how to use it anyway to be effective. And then B, to give our shadows as well as our Happily team who really want to invest more time into being mentors, a place where they can find each other. So even in between assignments, they can find each other and ask questions or know that they can go someplace to have those questions answered. And so kind of the next step from that is having regular educational opportunities, not only for the shadows, but also for our working team members, so that everyone has access to be able to keep on leveling up their skills.
Christy, Amber has a question before
Yeah.
you move on.
Yeah, and are you able to see the
Christy?
slide again now?
We can see the slide, yes.
Great. Amber, what is your question?
All right. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Are you able to hear me? Okay, perfect. So looking at the grid and everything, this is a really interesting concept because I've wanted to get more into the virtual event space and production and things like that, but not knowing where to start. So this is fantastic. But if you are starting as level 1 production, so as shadowing the Happily Hour host, do you then have to progress kind of in a linear fashion? I mean, I'm not saying to take the exams, but I'm saying to do the actual shadowing. Or am I able to say, you know what, I am really interested in backstage manager, but I haven't shadowed production assistant yet? Or like, how is that structured?
Yeah, so my druthers are to, if you don't have any experience, to have you go through level 1 and come up. If you're someone who's had 20 years of live event experience, and there's something really specific, right? Say that you're only interested in continuing on speaker management and you just want to learn how to do that in a virtual space, then that may be something that's different. So there are areas in the application where you can kind of tell us a little bit about yourself, what your experience is, and kind of what your goals are. And that's also going to help us place people. I think, the benefit of being this first cohort is that there is more flexibility of kind of skipping the line because there may be multiple levels of experiences that come open in the course of a month, and not people who have all graduated at certain levels, right? As opposed to by this point next year, we may have a cohort of these, we've got 20 level 1s, we got 20 level 2, so we're still working towards the system. So I would say in the application, you've got a place to tell us what you have experience doing, you have a place to tell us what you want to get experience in, and you have an opportunity to tell us why you're interested. And so that information should inform how we're placing you and putting you into the system.
Okay, thank you. That's really helpful. Also, I really enjoy your sweater.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, my daughter liked it until I started singing to her, "Come on, baby, light my menorah," and then she was not excited at all. And she was really angry at me, and she tried to get me to shut up and I wouldn't. So that's how it goes. So yeah, one of the questions that we've also gotten is, can you do more than one track? Absolutely, you can do more than one track. And so it's basically learn at your own pace. People have been like, how long does it take to go through it? Honestly, like, it depends. Some months we have 23 events that we're doing, some months there are fewer. And so, you know, depending on what your area of focus is, depending on your availability, depending on the amount of positions we have to place for that event, it's very, and that's another reason why it's very modular, because you're all working professionals and you all want to get to work as fast as possible. You know, I feel like I've kind of talked about the 3 tracks and the 5 levels, so I don't feel a need to kind of go over all of these details at the same, but the rules of engagement. So remember, if you are placed as a shadow, you are a shadow. The goal is for no one to know that you're there. So, you know, you'll be turning off your video, you'll be muting your mic, and then you'll even be changing your name so it just says Happily Shadow, and removing your profile pic so that instead of you with fake eyelashes and a costume for Halloween, the image they get is just the black box with the text. You know, not interfering with the work the team's doing, because, hey, you don't have any work to do, so just relax. Don't interrupt the team meetings with your own questions. Wait, because you'll be able to ask them later. And then stick around the show to hang out with your pro. Once the work is done, the audience is gone, you can debrief with them, ask them anything you want. If it's a Zoom room like this, they may have to close it and then have you jump back in after they've ejected all the guests. But you do have that opportunity. And then stay engaged with us and help us improve. This is developed to help us, to help you, you know, so it benefits both sides for us to kind of know how to make it better. And then a couple of other housekeeping notes. Because you're a shadow, there needs to be checks in place. So you'll see, like, you kind of opt into, yes, I understand what this means. So you don't want to put, you can't put the jobs that you do as a shadow as work experience. You can put that you're involved in the Happily Shadow program under education. But in terms of, you know, details about the clients that you work on, those kinds of projects, that's not stuff that you should be out there publicly talking about. And so I have the link here on how to get started. And so I'll pause here again for questions, and then I will just let you know, I totally wasn't paying attention when I was kind of signing up. I was part of the Haute Dokimazo family reunion last November. And so I was like, oh, I'll just sign up and do this. And then totally missed the whole messaging about how it's holiday parties and people might be looking for ideas. So if you're looking for ideas of holiday parties, I feel like I should let you know that we do holiday parties. There's like $1,000 package, and just kind of, you just go on and register for it and whatever. We're offering a 5% cash back bonus. So if you have friends looking for cool ideas, send them to happily.io/happily-hours, and then tell them that if they book it, say that you referred them, and then we'll give you some cash back. So that is my due diligence. What questions do you have on the shadow program?
So we have a couple questions from the chat. If you want me to go ahead with those.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Sure. Okay. So Lynn has asked, is applying to be in the shadow program link above and setting up a profile the same thing, or is there a separate place to do your profile?
Right. So when you do your application for the shadow program, it's going to ask you what your Happily profile URL is. So they are 2 separate things. And it's that way because for right now, the shadow program is something that we've been sharing with our specialists, our network of specialists. And so most of them already have a profile. But because some of you may not be in the Happily system already, if you go to happily.io, you'll be able to see there's like a join us, and you can very easily, just a couple of clicks, start your own profile as a specialist. And so I would recommend you do that, because then when you do the shadow application, you've got the URL. If you don't have the URL in that application, we're not going to place you until we have that information from you, just because that's how we track everybody. So they are 2 separate things.
Christy, this is Lynn. Just a quick question on that. So I did go into that initially. That's why I kind of pawned my question and asked if you want to hire for a project or work as a freelancer.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I went, I picked one and I signed up and stuff, but then it brings me to like the 3 packages to choose from. So I felt like I was missing something.
So then that makes me think that you might have signed up as a client by accident instead
Yeah, that's
of
what I'm
creating
thinking as well.
Yeah. So if you're hiring for a project, then you're somebody who has an event that you want to produce.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you want to sign up as a specialist. You want to be someone who can be hired to work on those projects.
I just didn't see an option for that. That's where I think I was missing something. So
Got it.
I'll go back and try to figure it out.
Okay.
And then last question, is the shadow, is it a one-on-one situation or are there multiple shadows assigned at one time?
Yeah, so typically it's going to be kind of a one-on-one, right? So however, in a Zoom room like this, you may have a backstage manager and a clock and a production assistant or a tech assistant. And if all 3 of those professionals wanted to be mentors, then they may each have a shadow. So you will be assigned to a mentor and they probably will not have another person they're mentoring at the same time. However, there may be other shadows that are kind of in your space because you're shadowing different roles on different tracks. Does that make sense?
Totally. And then how long does it generally take to get a response if you were to fill out an application?
Yeah, so we announced it last week, I think Thursday. On Monday, I had an orientation, and on Wednesday, the first class of 20 went through their first event. But that's because we knew that we wanted to launch with that particular event because we had 20 rooms going on at the same time, so we could deploy a bunch at the same time. And then so that's so if you filled out the application and you haven't gotten a response yet, it's only been active for a week, so you're probably one of the people who have filled it out in the past few days. And so you should hear from us soon, because I'm about to create a Discord channel and then invite everybody into it so you can all be there. So the difference between being hired for a project or work as a freelancer. So being hired for a project is the same thing as a freelancer. So and then the different opportunities that we have. So I think like on this slide, maybe, let's see. So these are the basic roles that we have available on virtual events. And these are the basic teams. There are some that are that may be specific or maybe additional, but I think these roles are the primary ones. If that answers your question. And then the part about the URL. So if you go to happily.io and create a Happily profile, then when you apply for the shadow program, you've got a Happily profile URL that you can share in the application. And that is something that, that we want to make sure that we have. Are there any other questions? Because I know we're like 3 minutes over.
I think that's it.
Okay, great. Well, thank you all very much for coming out. And I look forward to continuing to stay in touch with you and kind of seeing what you end up doing and how you progress. And have a great rest of your week and enjoy the rest of the hot holiday party.
Thank you
Yes.
so much, Christy.
Thank you, Christy. That was really helpful. Very interesting.
Yeah, it really was helpful. I'm filling it out right now.
Awesome. Cool. Send
So-
little loves, little hearts.
Yeah. I know, because I've like felt so disconnected. Like the first time I got a text, I was like, I don't even know what to do. Like, like I think that there was a disconnect from like filling out and being accepted. And then I was like, now what?
Oh, got it. That's a really great note. Okay.
So I was going to say, if you want to just let your team know that, but I'm excited to know that we can do the shadow program to learn the other things that we really don't know well.
Right.
Like, that's so cool.
awesome.
Yay,
Yep.
thank you.
Yay,
You're
thanks.
welcome.
Hopefully we all get to work together.
That'd be lovely. Awesome.
So but thank you, Christy. That was great. Just so everyone knows, the next session is at 12 noon Central, and it is called Look Good and Maximize Networking Efficiency. It's going to be with Sherry Hoffman from Neon Collective. I will be here all day. We'll see you all, hopefully, in a little bit. There's other rooms to check out, though, so have fun.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.